Hello everyone. Today I'm going to teach you the chapter Packing, chapter number 7 from the book Beehive. And now this is the beginning of our second term. This particular chapter, Packing, is an excerpt, or you can say an extract from the novel Three Men in a Boat. This particular novel, Three Men in a Boat, was implemented in class 9 to develop reading habits among the students. There were two novels, Gulliver's Travels and Three Men in a Boat. So we had to teach only any one of the two novels. So I have read this novel, Three Men in a Boat. It had many chapters in it, and this particular chapter, Packing, is an excerpt of the same novel. So the author of the chapter Packing is Jerome K. Jerome. Jerome K. Jerome was born on 2nd May 1859, and he was an English writer and humorist, best known for the comic travelogue The Three Men in a Boat. Jerome left school at age of 14, working first as a railway clerk and then as a school teacher, actor and a journalist. So now let's start the chapter, but before I should start the chapter, let me tell you some summary of the chapter. The chapter Packing is a short story about three friends who are getting ready to go for a journey. Thus, packing summary will help you to understand the story in a simplified form. It follows the packing session of three friends, Jerome, Harris and George. So Jerome is the author of this chapter. That means he is also the main character of the story, including his two friends and one dog, Montmorency. Thus, it begins with them starting the most important thing of a journey. So, whenever we plan to go on a journey, what is the most important thing that we do? We pack our luggage. We pack our thing, the dresses, the clothes. The important things need to be packed before going or starting for a journey. So, this story is an extract. I told you that this story is an excerpt from the novel Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. Here, Jerome is the narrator, that means the author of the chapter Packing. And he writes about the experiences he has while his friends decide to start packing. Further, it takes us on a hilarious ride about three adults who struggle to do the packing. Each of them felt that he is a good packer, but it's true that none of them knew even ABCD of packing. The chapter will take you through the nuisance they experience in addition to their dog Montmorency. And how did the dog Montmorency contributed in the packing? We will also read about it. It also shows how his two other friends are not great packers. So, as Jerome, Harris, and George are ready to do the packing on a journey, that means they are going to start their journey, but before that, they start packing. They start packing for it. Being the narrator, Jerome describes how the packing experience went. I mean, what uh, mistakes, what incidents happened while they started their packing. We can see that Jerome is quite confident with his packing skill. That means Jerome felt that he was the best packer in the world. So he is very much confident about his skill regarding packing. As he handles it all alone, he tried to handle it, he tried to pack all alone. While in reality, he wishes simply to supervise the packing and making his friend to do the packing under his supervision, under his guidance, under his instructions. However, they listen to him and let him handle it all by himself. While they sit and relax, this did not impress the author because he wanted to supervise that packing. He wanted to give instruction to his friend and they should do under his guidance, under his supervision. So let us start the chapter Packing by Jerome K. Jerome. I said I would pack. That means here the narrator Jerome made the announcement, made the declaration that he would pack. I rather pride myself on my packing. So here the narrator says that he prides himself on his packing skill. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. So packing is one of those many things. That means he prided himself on his packing skill. But he says that there are many things in which he is adept, he is skilled. Among those things, packing is also his passion, and he feels that nobody in the world can do as good as him. That means related to packing. Nobody can equal him, can be compared with him when it is in terms of packing. It surprises me myself sometimes how many of these subjects are there. He himself prides over his skill, over his talent. That means he said that he was adept, he was skilled in many things. And it is a surprise for him that how he was so much skilled, talented in so many things. Among them is packing. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. So he made it clear. When the time came for packing, he made it clear to his friends that the whole matter should be left to him. That means he made it clear that he would do the packing. And he told his friend that they should leave the matter, that means the packing, to him. They fell into the suggestion with a readiness. They fell into suggestion, that means they agreed. They gave their consent that he should do the packing. They readily agreed to his suggestion, to his proposal. They fell into the suggestion with a readiness that's something uncanny about it. That means uncanny about it. That means strange. They felt that it was strange for them that he had decided to do the packing. So they agreed. They left the whole thing for the narrator to pack. George put on a pipe and spread himself over the easy chair. And Harris cocked his legs on the table and lit a cigar. So as soon as it was proposed by the narrator that he would do the packing, everything should be left on him, they agreed. They left the packing And what did George do? George lit a pipe and spread himself on the easy chair. That means he relaxed on the easy chair. And Harris, he cocked his legs. That means bent the legs on knees and sat. That means he put one leg on the other. And then he also relaxed on the sofa. And entirely everything, the whole packing was left for our narrator Jerome to complete it. This was hardly what I intended. That means, intended means what? Planned, expected, wanted. He had never planned, he had never expected that his friends would retire, they would relax themselves and leave the whole packing on him, for him. He had never expected, he had never planned for that. This was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job and that Harris and George should potter about under my direction. That means the intention when he said that everything should be left over him. That means he did not mean that he would do the packing all by himself, but actually he intended to boss the job. That means he wanted the packing should be done under his supervision. He wanted to supervise that job. He wanted to give instruction to George and Harris that they should do this, they should do packing like this, they should follow his instructions regarding the packing. So they were going to do the packing, but our narrator Jerome, he was to give them instructions. He wanted to boss the job. But what did George and Harris do? They felt that he wanted to do the packing, so they relaxed, left everything to the narrator. I pushing them aside every now and then with, oh, you, here, let me do it. There, then you are simple enough, really teaching them, as you might say. So he wanted to boss the job. That means he wanted to instruct them. George, bring that shoes. Harris, pack the eatables, pack the boots. But how they should pack, he wanted to give them instruction. He wanted to make them move here and there in the room, bring the things and pack it. So whatever they were going to do, they were going to do and follow his instructions. Whatever instructions would be given to them by our narrator. But they had mistaken it, misunderstood his proposal, and they relaxed, and all the packing work was left for the narrator. There you are, simple enough, really teaching them, as you might say. They are taking it in the way they irritated me. They did irritated me. So they misunderstood his words. They thought that Jerome wanted to do the packing on himself. So they left the job, they relaxed. And he got irritated. He did not feel good. He felt bad. Because they did not understand the real meaning of his words, of his instructions. Their taking it in the way they did irritated me. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. And he said that now he was going to do the packing. And those two friends, they had relaxed themselves and they were going to watch the narrator doing the packing. And narrator Jerome says that whenever he is doing some work and the people who they sit idly, they relax themselves, and when they watch him doing nothing, that irritates. Whenever he is working and he sees some people sitting nearby doing nothing, just looking at him, watching his activities, that irritates him. He does not like it. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. So now the narrator is relating an incident of the past. This particular chapter, the particular novel to which this particular excerpt has been taken, it had, I think, something 27, 26 chapters. But all the chapters were related to the past. Okay, so same here in this particular paragraph, the writer, the author is relating an incident which had happened to him in the past. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. That way. That means he used to live with a man, and that way, that means whenever he used to work, that man would be sitting, he would sit, he would relax himself on the sofa, on the chair, and just keep on looking at the narrator, watching his activities. So that irritated him. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. So he would loll on the sofa. That means he would relax. The particular man with whom he used to live earlier. So that man would relax himself on the sofa and would keep on watching our narrator doing the things, whatever works he used to do, either cleaning the house or doing household work, whatever. That man would relax on the sofa and watch his activity, and that irritated him too. Following me round the room with his eyes wherever I went. So he would sit himself, he would relax himself on the sofa, and wherever the narrator would be moving in the room, his eyes would be following him. Wherever he went into the room, his eyes would follow him. And that also irritated the narrator, because wherever he went, whatever he did, that man's eyes would follow him. He said, it did him real good to look at me messing about. And he used to tell the narrator that he enjoyed, he liked the way narrator used to mess with the thing, or you can say the way he used to waste his time. That means at that time also, when our narrator Jerome used to live with that man, whatever works he did, it was just whatever work he did on himself, it was a wastage of time. That means he was not able to do that work efficiently. Messing about, he said, it made him feel that life was not an idle dream to be kept and yarned through, but a noble task. He used to tell the narrator that life is not an easy, life does not have always smooth sailing. You cannot just idle your time, waste your time relaxing. But life is very important, time is very precious. But life is but a noble task, full of duty and stern work. But life is, you have to go for hard work. It is full of responsibilities, it is full of hard work. You cannot idle, you cannot waste your time. When you waste your time, you waste your life. It is full of responsibilities and hard work. But a noble task full of duty and stern work. He said he often wondered how he could have gone on before he met me, never having anybody to look at while they work. So he said that he could not understand that particular man with whom the narrator used to live. That man used to say that he could not understand how he spent his life before he started living with the narrator. He was just passing, he was just idling his time. Now, I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. So he says that he was not like that particular man. Neither like his friends who were now relaxing on the sofa and easy chair, and they were looking at the narrator. But the narrator was not like that. That if somebody was working in front of him in his room, he would also join. He would also lend a helping hand. But he could not sit or relax himself and keep on watching other people working. He was not like his friends, neither like the man with whom he used to stay earlier. Now I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working like slave. I want to get up and superintend and walk around with my hands in my pocket and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature. I can't help. And he says that if somebody would be working in the room, he cannot relax himself on the sofa. But he would get up, he would put his hands in his pocket, and then he would tell that man, he would give instruction that in what possible way, in which suitable way that work can be done. He would give his suggestion, he would give his advice that what would be the better way to do that work. That means he wants to do that work under his he wants that work should be done under his supervision, under his instruction. And he said that he is very energetic and it is his nature and he can't help it. That means he cannot simply sit, relax and see other people working. However, I did not say anything. So, however, he did not say anything. When he did not say anything, when he told his friend that he wanted to do the packing, everything should be left for him. But his friend George and Harry, they misunderstood it. And they got relaxed. They relaxed themselves. But his intention was that he should supervise the work, he should boss the work. The packing should be done under his supervision. But it was misunderstood or mistaken by his friend. But he did not say anything. He did not make it clear that what was his intention. But he decided to do the packing. However, I did not say anything, but started the packing. He started packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be. So when he started the packing, he never expected that it was going to be a very tough work. He never expected that it was going to be a tough work. I had thought it was going to be, but I got the bag finished at last. But at last, somehow, he managed to do the packing. He managed to put the things in the bag. And I sat on it. So when he had finished the packing, he closed the bag and sat on it. Sat on it and strapped it. That means closed the bag and he sat on it. Ain't you going to put the boots in? Said Harris. So when he strapped the bag, he sat over it, and when he felt that the packing was over, suddenly at the same time, Harris asked him, ain't you going to put the boots in? Harris asked him if he wasn't going to pack the boots. That means the narrator had forgotten to pack the boots. And I looked around and found I had forgotten them. So as soon as Harris reminded him that he had forgotten to pack the boots, he looked around and he saw that he had forgotten to pack the boots. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I had got the bag shut and strapped. Of course. So he knew that if Harris would have wanted, he could have told him that he had forgotten to pack the boots before he had closed the bag, strapped it. He should have reminded him earlier, but he did not do so. That means the intention is clear, that he wanted to make fun of him. The narrator prided himself on his packing skill. He also considered himself as the best packer in the world. So here Harris, you can say, mocked his packing skill. And George laughed. So as soon as Harris commented about the boots that it was not packed, George laughed. One of those irritating senseless chuckle. Chuckle means to laugh to make fun of someone. So the particular chuckle, that means the way George smiled, chuckled, it was clear that he was making fun of his packing skill. Chuckle, headed crack, George laughed of his. They do make me so wild, mad with anger. So when George pointed out or told him that the boots were not packed, George laughed, and it made him wild, mad with wild. He got mad. He got angry, but he did not express his anger. He did not express his feelings. I opened the bag and packed the boots in. So he opened the bag and packed the boots in. Just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. So he opened the bag, packed the boots, and as he was going to close the bag, a very horrible idea occurred to him. Had I packed my toothbrush? Then again he was reminded. The idea came to his mind whether he had packed his toothbrush or not. I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. So he says that whenever he does the packing, even though he would have packed the toothbrush, but after the packing, he is always doubtful whether he had packed the toothbrush or not. So again he would have to unpack everything, search for his toothbrush, and then he will find it. Then again he would have to pack it. So whenever he would do the packing, he always is concerned. He always feels that he hadn't packed his toothbrush.